Om Shanti, how are you? Negative thinking is a reality for many people. Almost all of us have negative thinking to some extent, but some people do experience negative thinking to a larger extent that they find it really hard to put an end to it. So the negative thinking they experience happen not out of imagination, it happens out of reality. Something very negative happens in their life, like uh, the distress people experience at war. That's not imagination, that's for real. They lose their family, they lose their property, so they may end up being a widow. So obviously they will have this negative thinking that repeats itself. And also the loss of our dear ones and some treachery by their family members lead them to have continuous negative thoughts. And also, if you face repeated failures, obviously you're going to have negative thoughts. And also, the devastating effect caused by relationship breakups will lead them to have negative thoughts. Most of the time, these negative thoughts will directly affect your physical health, leading to panic attack. So it will cause injury to many of your internal organs, and you will end up getting uh, multiple organ failures. So to put an end to it, the first thing you need to do is to visit a psychiatrist and start taking medicines. So that's going to put an end to the ill effect on your physical health. But the mental health remains the one that you really need to take care of. So that's something no medicine can never put an end to your negative thoughts. So to stop negative thoughts, you must understand what is the reason for negative thoughts in the first place. It is some incident that has a negative impact in your life that makes you to have negative thoughts over and over again. So why is that incident having negative impact on you? The reason is pretty simple. It is because something you believe to be yours is affected by some incident. So that leads to the negative thinking. For example, if there's a death of your loved ones, say your husband or your child. So anyone who is bound to die someday. But you know that, but still you are not aware of it all the time. If you are aware of it all the time, then you will obviously be ready to face the death at any time. Since you are not aware of it, since you think that that particular person is going to be with you forever until your death, so it is that thinking and belief system that leads to the sudden shock due to their death. So it is because of your attachment to a particular person or a particular thing that causes you to suffer pain when that attached person or thing is detached from you. So that happens during wartime when, as happened in Ukraine, where couples separate. So we suffer mainly because of the attachment more than the actual incident. Because if the same thing happens to our neighbor, we are not going to suffer. Because it happens in our family, we suffer because we are quite attached to our family members. And the pain increases if we are emotionally and financially dependent to the person who died. So, for example, if you take people of Ukraine, so women, they fled Ukraine, but men are in the battlefield. So obviously they are going those women are going to have negative thoughts about all the possibilities that can happen to their husband during wartime. So that's not imagination, it's real. So obviously that negative thought is going to run at the back of their mind all the time, even during sleep, in their dreams. So that's definitely going to have a very negative impact in their mental and physical health. So the pain depends on how long they were emotionally attached to each other. If they were just married and they get to know together just recently, then the pain is not going to be that bad compared to the ones who were uh, intimate for several years. Likewise, if there's a property dispute where your brother or sister snatches away your property, so that's going to create a very bad negative impact on you because of two things. One, your property is stolen, and another thing is it is stolen by your own brother whom you trusted throughout your life. So it boils down to the fact that it is your attachment, mental attachment to the property that you said to yourself right from your birth that it is yours. So that creates the attachment, and that is actually causing the pain now when it is taken away from you. Likewise, you have developed this attachment towards your brother from your childhood, so you trust him unconditionally. But when that brother turns against you, it becomes unbearable for you because you were so much attached emotionally to him till that. So the main reason is just our attachment. So what should we do to escape from these kind of negative thoughts? So the one thing that all religions fail to imbibe in every member of their religions is we should not get attached to anything in this world, be it your mother or father, your siblings, your child, your property, your beauty, your talent. So you should be able to detach yourself from everything, including your body, because that's how God created us in the beginning. Yes, 5,000 years back, this world was heaven, and the residents of heaven were deities. So it is us who were deities in the beginning. So in our initial births, we were soul conscious. Soul is the life energy that inhabits this body. It lies in between the eyebrows, which is why we wear religious symbols in between the eyebrows. So they know they were the souls that sees through the eyes, listens through the ears. It is the soul that performs all sorts of actions with this body. So they were actually emotionally and mentally detached from this body because they are not this body. So that is what we call as soul consciousness. Everybody in heaven were soul conscious. They were they considered themselves to be soul, and also they considered others to be souls. So they don't get attracted either to their own body or to the body of others, which means there is absolutely no chance of having lustful thoughts over each other. Because for you to experience lust, anger, greed, or ego, you should first of all have attachment to something or somebody. If you are not attached to anything in this world, there is no way for you to have lust, anger, greed, and ego, which means you are absolutely free from all sorts of pain and sufferings. Yes, that's the reason heaven is free of pain and sufferings. Not only that, it was filled with happiness, blissfulness, peacefulness, health, and wealth. So we enjoyed everything mainly because we were not attached to anything. We stayed detached as a soul. We were soul conscious forever, and we experienced blissfulness continuously because that's the true nature of soul. If you are conscious of that all the time, we can experience blissfulness all the time. That's how we were for the first 2500 years when the world was heaven. After that, we lose soul consciousness and become body conscious. So we no longer enjoy the blissfulness that comes from the soul. So we start seeking happiness from the external world through our physical senses. That's how we become addicted to sensual pleasures and these five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. So this is how we start committing sins, because these five vices are the major sins. So by continuing committing sin after sins, we start experiencing punishment for those sins in the form of diseases, all sorts of treachery, natural calamities, and world wars. In India, until recently, girl child doesn't inherit their parents' property. So it goes just to a male child. So what happens as a result is only the male child has this attachment towards its property, while female child, they don't form this attachment in the first place because they know right from the birth that they have no right over the property. So they don't develop any attachment towards it. As a result of that, they don't suffer any pain if the property is being taken by the neighbor or their relatives, it do, it doesn't bother them, because they don't have attachment towards that property in the first place for them to get affected. It is only the male child that gets affected if it is taken by somebody else. Likewise, even parents, they don't have attachment towards their daughters as much as they do with their sons, because it is the son who is going to be with them forever, who is going to take care of the parents for the rest of their life, while the daughters will be sent away after marriage. So they don't have attachment towards them. So even the death of their parents will not cause as much pain to the daughters as it does to the sons. All this is possible because parents know that daughters are not going to stay with them forever. So, being conscious of that makes them not to have attachment towards their daughter right from their birth, because they are not going to be with them. Likewise, actually speaking, nothing is going to be with us forever, right? It's the truth, especially at this time and age. Anything can happen to anything, anybody, anytime. So, what's the need for having attachment to them? Actually, children don't develop attachment to anything until they reach 12 or 13 years of age. They are just attached to their parents. That's it. They don't have attachment towards the property or anything. But it is only after they grow older they start developing these attachments, mainly because parents teach them so. They say continuously that it is our house, it is our property, it is our effort. So after hearing this repeatedly, he unconsciously developed this attachment towards the property. That makes the kid go mad when that property is snatched away from him by any reason, sometimes even by the government. So, being conscious all the time not to develop attachment towards anything or anybody protects us from having negative thoughts in the future. Because if you are not attached to something, to somebody, for example, it's not going to hurt you no matter what happens to that particular person, because you are not at all attached to them. So it is smart to stay detached from everybody and everything so that you don't get hurt in the future. But if you are attached to something or somebody, if that person or thing is snatched away from you, not only it hurts you, but also you're going to react aggressively, and you're going to make any effort to retain that particular person or thing. So that's going to create a lot of trouble both for you and the ones who is snatching that person or thing away from you. In heaven, we were 100% soul conscious, which means we were 100% detached from everything. That's why we were blissful and we were surrounded by everything we need to feel happy. Like we are filled with wealth to the extent even the palaces we live in were made of golden bricks. And cow and lion take water from the same pond together, which means even they don't fight with each other, they don't feed on each other, they feed on plants. And people of heaven, they are called deities whom Hindus worship till date. Because they were worthy of worship, because of their divine qualities, they lacked devilish traits like lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. All they expressed were divine qualities like love, peacefulness, purity, and blissfulness. But after the first 2500 years, after developing body consciousness, they start having attachment towards everything they see. So that's the reason they start losing everything they originally possessed in heaven, like the beauty, the peacefulness, the blissfulness, the wealth, health. They lose everything gradually, and in the end of this 5000-year time cycle, we have lost everything. And that is when God, from his supreme abode, enters an old man's body and start giving this knowledge called Murli, which is available in all Brahmakumaris Raj Yoga meditation centers, absolutely free of cost. It is also available in many YouTube videos and websites. I'll be giving the links of some of them in the description below. So it is only by reading the direct knowledge of God, which is morally, one can detach from everybody and everything now and become soul conscious again, thereby becomes eligible to take birth in heaven again, because after all, this world is going to be converted to heaven again. It is only during that time God comes, and God comes only to inform us about that and make us eligible to enter heaven again. But unfortunately, we are attached to a greater extent to everything that we are surrounded with, because we have no power to detach from everything on our own. That's when God teaches this simple technique to possess the power to detach yourself from everything. What is that technique? God says it is by coming in contact with everything and everybody that you get attached to them. Now you cut the contact and connect yourself with God, the Supreme Soul. He is called Allah by Muslims and Heavenly Godfather by Christians. God is one. He doesn't take birth as a child like us. Despite that, it is only God who possesses this knowledge about this 5000-year time cycle. So he needs to come to say this. Since he lacks a body on his own, he needs to take another human body in order for him to give this knowledge to us. That's the reason he takes an old man's body and he names him Brahma. And now he says through Brahma's mouth about the introduction of himself. He says, you are a tiny point of light in between the eyebrows, that is the soul. And God is also a tiny point of light because he is also a soul, which is why we call him the Supreme Soul, Paramatma. So the more you remember him, the more you get attached to him, so that will obviously detach your mind from everything from this physical world. So that's one of the reasons we remember God. We automatically get this power to detach from everything. So it is only by remembering God as a point of light constantly that we develop love for him. Because it is only by having constant contact with several things and persons in this world that we have love for them or attachment for them. So now it is by remembering God as a point of light, and this supreme abode is golden red colored light world. So we need to remember God like a star in the golden red colored sky, because that's how he is in this place. And we need to consider ourselves to be the soul without any body, because it is by having body consciousness that we get attached to everything. So though we are in the body, just say to yourself constantly that I have no body, so that you no longer have body consciousness. So it takes effort. So you need to consider yourself to be the soul that is distinct from the body, that is separate from the body, and you need to remember God as a point of light by going there at a mental level. So you need to be there in this supreme abode all the time mentally while performing duties in this physical world. So that protects you from getting attached to the worldly things or the things that you do. By doing so, our soul gets filled with the power of purity that is required to stay detached from everything. When your soul gets filled with the power of purity, you will automatically see yourself coming out of those five vices: lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Thereby, you start experiencing the blissfulness from within that you enjoyed initially. So, in heaven, we are not attached to anything, but in hell, we slowly start getting attached to everything around us. So that leads to the loss of more and more power. So as we lose more soul power, we get more and more attached to everything around us. So that happens constantly till we reach the end of this time cycle called Kalpa. Now, by remembering God, after considering ourselves to be the soul, what happens is we slowly detach from everything that we are attached to. So thereby the soul reaches the pure state in our past births. So as much as you remember God as a point of light, your soul becomes pure, which means it moves backwards. It reaches the pure state it possessed in our past births. So if you remember God 100% without getting distracted by these worldly attractions, then it is possible that your soul becomes as pure as it was in the beginning of this time cycle, which is 100% pure. So it is because we lose the power that we get attached to everything, and we want to hold on to everything, and if something bad happens to the thing or person that we are attached to, we even fight for it, we even give up our life for it. It's all due to the lack of the soul power. But by filling our souls with power by the constant remembrance of God, we will not only be able to detach from everything, and even if something happens to anything, we will not feel the pain. We will just stay blissful, because we will start experiencing blissfulness from within instead of depending on the external things or humans for happiness. So we will no longer fight with somebody who wants to snatch away the person or things that we are attached to, which means you will be at peace. It's not going to disturb your peace. How does this magic happen? It's by having this yogic power, which means the power of remembrance. It is possible. If possible, right from your childhood, you should be conscious that you're not attached to anything. But unfortunately, nobody teaches us this, so obviously, we will be attached to everything because we have lost our soul power. So, the only way out of this is to remember God constantly and fill our soul with power so that we get out of those attachments. Thereby, we don't have any negative thoughts about any negative incidents. For that, you need to not only remember God as a point of light, but also read the direct knowledge of God called Murli daily, and you have to churn over the Murli points at least 30 minutes once, so that you keep your mind busy with these knowledge points, so you don't give any time for your mind to churn over the things that it was previously attached to. So this helps you enormously in coming out of this negative thinking. For example, if you think in the beginning of hell, there is some problem over property issue that makes you feel uh, uncomfortable in the beginning. You don't fight with each other in the beginning, but you feel uncomfortable, which makes you lose more power. Then, in the next birth, you will be facing a similar situation where there is this property issue. Now, because of you having lesser power compared to your previous birth, now you will react to it, you will express about your uncomfortableness. Previously, you were uncomfortable, but you didn't express it. Now, you are expressing it. That's it. You don't hurt anybody. In the next birth, you get real angry and you are expressing that anger towards the person involved. But you don't go any further. And when the same thing happens in the next birth, now you get real angry that you fight with each other. So you go to court, you go to police station, you take all legal actions like that. And so that makes you lose more and more soul power. So in the next birth, you will be facing a similar situation. Now you have absolutely no power, so you are so much attached to your property that makes you react in a wild way, which makes you want to even murder the other person involved. So that's how the decrease in soul power will make you go crazy. So the same goes with lust, greed, jealousy, everything. So it increases as the soul power decreases birth after birth. So you can take, for example, there is a soul here. It is heaven, the beginning of heaven, where the soul is filled with power. So it is shown at the top. So it slowly decreases its power, so it is gradually coming down. So when it comes down, there's a door that shuts behind it, which means it can never go up on its own. Nobody teaches it. So, no matter what it does, no matter how religious it is, it still can't go up. So, after taking several births, it decreases to the extent that it reaches still down, that there is another door shutting behind it, so it cannot go beyond that. Likewise, for example, now it is here. So As I give that example, and in one birth you are facing the property issues where you are uncomfortable, so your soul power decreases here in the next birth. In this birth, you are expressing that uncomfortableness, so your soul loses its power and it reaches here. Then you are fighting for it, then it reaches here, then you are even committing murder. So this is here. So this is the present birth. Obviously, the same situation comes very strong in the next birth, because it will tempt you to bring out the sinful behavior in you, thereby you will be punished by it. But now, after taking the knowledge of God, you are not going to react it. Of course, it's going to be very hard for you, because it's going to be tempting, because you have inherited that character for the past several births. Despite that, now you are remembering God, you are listening to the knowledge of God, where He constantly advises against fighting, against taking revenge, against lust, anger, greed, attachment. So thereby it creates a magic in your mind that you can't fight. You don't want to fight. Even if you're tempted initially, then by listening to Murli and by remembering God, your mind becomes calmed down very easily. So you don't fight. Now, peace is your true nature of the soul. Now, you will act in a way that's going to give you peace. So, instead of reacting aggressively and falling further down, now you don't fight for it. If somebody snatches away from you, you're just going to tell yourself, it's not mine. Maybe I don't deserve it. Because it is based on the power of this soul that you will be inheriting wealth, health, everything. So if you are losing that, it means your soul has lost its power to retain it. So if you make any attempt to retain that power, that's going to make you lose more and more soul power. So you're going to be facing more and more violent situation in the future of this birth and in your future births. So by knowing this, by being aware of this, you are not going to act stupidly as you did in your past births. So you're going to stay peaceful no matter what. You know what happens? From here, now you are reaching upwards, you are breaking this gate open. So now the soul reaches here. So you will end up in a place where there is no resistance at all, where you no longer face any property dispute. Actually, you don't have property now, but still you will be earning very good, because you are at peace. Your mind will work very good when you are at peace. So now you are here, but rarely you will face some other problem. Again, since you have the practice of breaking this door open, now it's going to be much easier for you to break this open by being at peace no matter what. So all you need to do is to remember God, hold on to God constantly. That's enough for this door to break open. So now you're reaching here. So, but it is only by acquiring this knowledge constantly, thinking over it, you will be able to have confidence over this. But initially, when you are confronting such property issues, it is going to be very difficult for you to take an entirely different approach from the rest of the world. But when you have that courage to take a step ahead, towards peace, then you will quickly realize that you no longer face the obstacles you faced before. That's when you start to realize you no longer have the negative thinking that you originally possessed while you were here, because you were constantly bombarded with the negative things around you. So obviously you will be having the negative thoughts. But by accepting that nothing belongs to me except one God, so it is by remembering God I am going to accumulate the power that is required to accumulate wealth, health, and everything I originally possessed, that's going to last for 5,000 years. But by facing repeated failures, obviously you will be initially, even after taking this knowledge, it's going to be difficult for you to come out of those negative thoughts. But once you put this knowledge into action and act peacefully, then you will see right before you that your obstacles have decreased tremendously. So your negative thoughts will decrease as well. You will start having positive thoughts automatically. So all you need to know that is, when your soul is here, the obstacle is less compared to when your soul is here. So by remembering God, you are moving upwards where the obstacles is going to decrease rapidly. So the smart ones will move upwards, while the rest of the world will move vigorously downwards and facing hell a lot of problems, which is going to give them more and more negative thoughts. The world is going to be filled with psychotic patients more than ever. But we who took this knowledge are lucky enough that we will not only stay peaceful but also will be moving upwards, will be filling our souls with the power of purity, thereby taking birth in heaven where there is absolutely no signs of any pain and suffering. Everything you see in heaven, everything you hear in heaven is going to give you nothing but happiness. So this is the true solution to come out of negative thinking. As I mentioned earlier, if you suffer physically due to your negative thinking, please go to the nearest psychiatrist and take medicine. Then you will no longer have any negative effect in your health, which itself will boost your confidence so that you can work mentally and prepare yourself to come out of negativity altogether for the rest of your life. So the world is going to turn more and more darker compared to what's happening in Sri Lanka or Ukraine. But people are going to face lots and lots of unimaginable problems in the upcoming future. So it is our duty to educate our friends and relatives so that they can better equip themselves to face them without losing their peace. Sharing this video is the first step for us to do that. So please share this video with your friends and relatives, with the familiar ones, with the unfamiliar ones. Share with everybody, so that based on their effort, they may come out of this problem and they can fill their souls with power and they can enter heaven along with us. So giving this knowledge to our friends and relatives is the number one charity, because giving money, offering food, that's not going to give them any mental strength to face the future. But it is this knowledge that's going to equip them mentally to face anything that's going to happen in the future, and also it's going to fill their souls with power to enjoy the benefits of heaven for the first 2500 years. So what are you waiting for? Please share this video and subscribe this video if you haven't already, and hit the thumbs up button if you really like this video, and I'm looking forward to your valuable comments in the comment section. Thanks for watching this long. Om Shanti.